Hey, this is Clint from Sackheads Radio. Just a reminder that next Friday, September 7th, Sackheads Radio will be live during prime time. It'll be 2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Why are you looking at me?
Greenwich Mean Time?
Well, yeah, it's Pacific.
Why can't you just say it's going to be on at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific? How hard is that?
Okay. How's about 4 Hawaii time?
I'll take 4 Hawaii time. Join us next week on the 7th of September for the Friday Night Fiasco on the Sackheads Radio Show at
2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We'll see you then. Guys, this is Sean from Sackheads Radio. Hopefully everyone can hear me out there. Man, this has been a fun start to the...
You know what? Honestly, okay. Why do we do this show? Do we do it for others' entertainment?
You know, we do it for our own entertainment. We do it for ourselves. But it's one of those things where I feel bad when it's not a good product because, honestly, I feel bad because of you. When something fails on my
Because of me?
Yeah, when something fails on my end, it drives me crazy because I know how much work you put into this show. You're not buying that right now?
Listen, I'm surprised I even made it here on time because I literally had to fly in, and I flew in just a little bit ago.
And I'm tired. No?
Yeah, no. But I didn't take an F-16 this time. So.
Which is just amazing to me because you like to rock the F-16.
Okay, maybe I did. God, they got to quit leaving their keys in those.
I know. You would think. So you went down to, where'd you go? I don't even know.
Why are you even worried about this?
Well, because I like to know what you're doing. I like to know what you're doing. Because it scares me. I won't lie to you.
We don't need to go any deeper. I was somewhere.
All right, you were somewhere.
I was somewhere.
And so you were on...
It was not vacation.
And were you at the RNC?
I was RNC.
Oh.
Otherwise, there would have been a big Sackheads banner in the background, and you would have been there with me, and we'd have been live.
So you went to this big secret location.
I actually had to... It's not actually a big secret. You can actually on a map, I'm sure. If it's not regulated, I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, why wouldn't it be regulated at this point?
Exactly. No, I actually, while I was where I was, I did have the opportunity to look at the show. So there are a couple new listeners that I would like to say hello to. A couple young ladies from Smiths. They were at a particular location at a convention with their spouses, and I had an opportunity to talk with them.
You realize how hinky that sounds right now?
Well, yeah, but nobody needs to know like what I do.
Yeah, you're a radio host.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, and that's why I promoted our show. Also, we have a new listener from South Jersey.
Hey, welcome, South Jersey.
Susan, and I have she was another nice lady. She came out with us to see her friend's husband who's doing some work out on the West Coast. So I had an opportunity to talk with her. Nice gal. She was older lady, Amber Station, and so she actually pulled us all on the phone.
Well, you know what? I'm up on the phone. I'm going to throw this out there real quick.
No, don't.
No, I am. If you listen on any mobile devices, there's an out Stitcher. If you've never used it, find it. It's on, I think it's on Coleco.
Wait, Stitcher, like it ends in an A?
No, Stitcher.
Oh, sorry, you were speaking about that.
Stitcher. If you're new to it, it has Coleco. I think it has Sega Genesis, Apple, Android, all the other ones. Whatever your app store is, so I could.
Did you just pick up on that?
Yes.
Wow. I was there staring at.
Okay, Coleco, so you can play old bins.
If you pull up the app and you sign up and you use the promo code SACKHEAD, SACKHEAD, you have a chance to be entered for products. So that's not too bad.
I have a quiz question for you.
And you can absolutely listen to all of our shows and download the podcast and all that good stuff. I'm not even going to let them go. What's your quiz question? And then I'm going to take this caller that's been waiting patiently.
Okay. What is this from?
Okay.
Up, up, down, down, left, right, DEA, select, start.
Contra.
Nailed it. For me.
Oh, so that was on Nintendo.
Absolutely.
I think it was Invincibility.
Like, I think like 30 lives or something like that.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentleman, whoever is listening.
We just aged ourselves?
Not only did we age, but that was completely unscripted. I actually picked that up from my head, and Sean just nailed it, just so you know. Just knows. I nailed the code, and Sean nailed it.
We were nerds as kids. The phone number tonight, if you want to, 347-205-9399. What do you mean? We have this on line 1.
I'll think you're still a nerd.
Oh.
Are you going to take this call
or
what?
You're on the air with Sackheads Radio.
How you doing, guys? My name's Rolf.
Good.
Hello, Jersey.
All right, we got off to a good start. Hey, Rolf, how are you?
All right.
From North Jersey.
Yeah, I can barely make you guys out over the phone, unfortunately. I'm stopped on the side of the road. Business, you know how it is.
You didn't have to do that for us. Which part of Jersey are you from?
Well, actually, I live in Maine mostly, but I'm in New Jersey on business and seeing some family.
Oh, awesome. What part of Maine are you from? Now you're talking about my area. I grew up in New England.
Oh, well, that's cool. I don't want to get too much into privacy right now. I'm calling really about.
Okay.
I got some people on hold here. I'm calling about for Ron Paul voters. Okay, I'm a Ron Paul delegate.
Yeah.
I was at the RNC. I was part of the Maine delegation.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was part of the walkout, and I'm not disagreeing with anything that Ron Paul voters believe in. But what I'm concerned about right now is that by what's going on with the Ron Paul people, they're going to marginalize themselves into such a small place that by the next election, no one's even going to listen to them. They're going to relegate themselves to permanent, glued-on tinfoil hat status. I'm changing my vote to Romney, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I'm not fooled. I mean, Romney is to the left of a lot of rhinos, to be honest. But he does have some business acumen. But I mean, again, I'm not really doing it because I believe in Romney or in Romney or Ryan. Paul Ryan, I mean, as a conservative, he voted for TARP, the auto bailout, voted against Bull Simpson. That's a kind of shaky conservative record.
Right.
What I'm concerned about and why I'm voting for Romney is national attitude. Okay? Ron Paul people understand one thing. The government didn't do this amazing transformation to this debtor nation and everything else overnight. Everything was done in increments, a little at a time. Okay? What happens is that, when you want to make a change, you can't make a change all at once. It has to happen in increments as well. Okay? Ron Paul did dazzle a lot of people, did shock a lot of people, made a lot of believers out of people. But at the same time, they're not going to vote for that change all at once. And there are too many issues where, he may have seemed radical, which a lot of his supporters support him on most things. Like, for example, John Popper from Blues Traveler. When I was at the RNC, when I was at the Ron Paul event in Temple Terrace, Florida, he's a big Ron Paul supporter. But the next day, even he had to say that, he was a little nervous about Ron Paul saying that 9/11 was the nation's fault. Okay? What I'm hoping is that Ron Paul people will get on board with the Tea Party. The Tea Party is a movement, an actual grassroots movement with a lot of numbers and a lot of influence. And, yes, they can be co-opted, and, yes, some of them have been co-opted, okay? But at the same time, they can also be co-opted by people who believe what they believe. And Ron Paul people, no one can dispute that they have the knowledge. They know what's going on. They can explain what's going on. And in a Romney-Ryan administration, with the help of the Tea Party, all joined together as one, feet can be held to the fire. If Obama gets reelected, you're going to have the mainstream media not vetting anything that he does, okay? And that includes concerns that Ron Paul people have, like NDAA, domestic drones, whatnot, okay? That's just going to fly right by the mainstream media, and you're not going to get that news. And it's going to be harder to dig. And I know there are bloggers out there who dig really good and find really good stuff, but without those mainstream media contacts or context to put that out there for you, you don't have the means to even look, okay? Another thing is the gun issue, which is extremely important, okay? I don't really know if Mitt and Ryan will protect the Second Amendment. I mean, I believe to some extent they will, but I also believe that with Tea Party backing, they will have to, because they'll have a fear of losing their possible majority in the Senate. If it goes that way, they'll have a fear of losing their majority in the House, you know, assuming that they hold on to the House. So, I mean, that'll be a big problem for them.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. There wasn't. It didn't seem to me that there was a huge Tea Party presence at the RNC, and I say this because Sarah Palin, particularly, I think Michelle Bachmann spoke, whatever, but Sarah Palin wasn't there, and I saw an interview recently with Sarah Palin where she didn't necessarily denounce or deny that there's a possibility of another party forming based on the Tea Party, if not the Tea Party itself.
Well, that's actually the point I was going to right next, is that, you know, when I say Ron Paul people will marginalize themselves by being out of it, if they get in this on the grassroots movement, because there are a lot of disgruntled Tea Party people, and they do believe in a lot of the things that Ron Paul people believe in. You know, as a matter of fact, most of the Ron Paul people that I've met speaking at Tea Party engagements, you know, up and down the East Coast. So, I mean, there's a lot of common ground there. And, you know, quote, unquote, if, you know, we got to worry about them coming for the guns or our First Amendment or any other infringements, especially on the Fourth Amendment of our rights, okay, your only ally in America is going to be the Tea Party. Ron Paul people sit this out and go to the other side and marginalize themselves. Nobody is going to listen to you next time around. It's a simple fact. I've been in politics my whole life. I've been a Ron Paul supporter for 10 years. I've met people as close to him as possible. I've met Dr. Paul himself. I don't in any way suffer from the delusion that Romney-Ryan is the panacea for what Ron Paul people are looking for. But I see it as an increment, a step, a chance to be part of the voice.
And it sounds like you're talking almost like the Overton window. I mean, the progressives in particular have changed this country slowly over 100 years by kind of moving the Overton window to the left and what's acceptable in American politics and American society. And what you're talking about sounds like that to me. You can't have traffic overnight, but you have to start pushing that window back over to the right more as far as what's mainstream and what's acceptable.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, too, now. You know, you notice now the progressives have turned almost anything into a code for racism. I mean, I even heard kitchen cabinet describing a presidential cabinet as being held as a racist term. The word Chicago being used as a racist term, all right? The more they shut down people's...
How about angry?
Yeah, angry, you know, and of course, you know, they're saying that white male... And yet I do believe that, you know, the Republicans really have put an extended arm out, you know, to minorities, and it's not that, you know, they don't embrace minorities, it's that minorities don't embrace the ideals. But if they see the ideals at work, the last real remembrance anybody has of the ideals of the Republicans at work is Ronald Reagan. And there's a whole generation of people that don't really know what it was like under Reagan and how good things got eventually.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, you're right, but not only that, but we talked about it on the show, I think it was last week or the week before, where you look at what party and who specifically was responsible not only for the end of slavery in this country, but also for the civil rights movement, and who was trying to stop that. A hint, it was the Democrats, and we did a kind of a history lesson on that. The Republicans and the conservatives in this country have a history of civil rights for everybody and being a big part of that movement, and that got lost somewhere in the shuffle to where the Democrats and the progressives have really co-opted that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it not only co-opted it, as a matter of fact, I got to applaud you for mentioning, even having the guts to mention that Martin Luther King was a Republican. I was blown away by that. I mean, I try to teach that when on those limited occasions when I'm allowed to speak at progressive functions, and what I generally find, I've gotten booed. I've actually had to have people put themselves in front of me and help me off the stage, just for the mention of those words, all in one sentence. Martin Luther King was a Republican, okay?
Yeah.
And, I mean, most of the policies that Kennedy began and Johnson ended were voted against by the Dixiecrats, the classic racist Democrats, you know, that existed then. And really what this modernization is just a different way of keeping them on the plantation, and I can't stand that. I want everybody to be free. I want everybody to rise above, you know, and they're not going to do it if their mentality is that, well, we can only achieve this and the man's going to take everything else. The best way to do it is to become the man.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And if we're all the man, quote unquote, and we're all equal and we're all the man, then nobody's behind, and everyone has the right to become the man.
Look, you have equal opportunity.
Yeah,
not everybody.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, not everybody has equal skills, equal intellect, equal, you know, physical ability to play professional sports or anything like that. But everybody has equal opportunity.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, too, a good businessman knows when they hire somebody where their skills are, where their skills aren't, how to utilize, how not to utilize. If we can get some of this regulation off the top of business, and again, it's going to take a strong groundswell like the Tea Party, added with the Ron Paul movement, added with some libertarians in there, okay, in order to do this. If they can stop strangling those people, they'll be able to take more people from poverty and deliver them into the middle class, which is shrinking daily. I mean, the middle class wealth dropped 38% under Obama. It's ridiculous and it's pathetic. And it did drop. I mean, it did drop some under Bush, but something like 4%. I mean, I'm not saying that's good, but I'm saying that's a huge difference.
Well, and one of the things, too, they talked about a couple months ago, I heard they went after Romney when he was governor of Massachusetts, and I know I lived there. They were talking about how unemployment, or how jobs weren't created, or the amount of jobs that weren't created. And I said, well, at the time that he was governor of Massachusetts, everyone was working. Everyone wasn't out of work, so there wasn't a lot of jobs being created.
Actually, he lowered the unemployment rate from somewhere around 5.4 to 4.8, I believe, somewhere in there.
Yeah, no, and there weren't a lot of jobs being created because there wasn't enough people to work the jobs. Like at that time, that's when all the medical company booms and really started. You had Boston Scientific and all that really starting to expand. They were halted because there wasn't enough people in that field in the area to expand more, and then eventually it got caught up. So they like to play convenient numbers, whatever works for them. Yeah, he didn't create a lot of jobs. Well, everyone was working, so who are you creating jobs for? At the time, the call for more jobs wasn't there. There was other focus to be had.
Actually, yeah, you're right. I mean, the best times for the national average of unemployment, they're usually hovering around 4 and 5%, and those are generally people that are transient in between one job to the other, you know, that class of people that maybe can't hold down a job and whatnot. I mean, those are just, that's pretty much a natural statistic in a society that functions under capitalism.
Well, and we're never, ever going to have an unemployment rate of 0%. It's just not going to happen.
No, well, it can't happen. I mean, again, you know, just between transition of jobs, that's almost 3%. It's a tough statistic to track down, but there are some numbers on it. I'll email you guys some links so you can see it. But just on transit from one job to another, okay, done by Americans. And a lot of times, you know, like in a lot of eras, like the Clinton era, I'll say those were people moving on up, you know.
Right.
Some people, basically go from one minimum wage job to another. Some of those unemployment rates are, teenagers who drop out of their teenage job to go to school. So, I mean, there's going to be those numbers. Yeah, you're right, absolutely. No way zero. But when you're seeing 4, 5, 5.5, those are very safe numbers, and that's a strong economy doing well.
Absolutely, and it's not where it is now. So, hey, Ralph, we're going to bounce around. We're going to take a break, and we're going to get into the RNC a little bit here. What's your final message for Ron Paul followers and delegates? Because we talked about it before. Ron Paul people are strict Ron Paul people for the most part, and it's hard to break them otherwise. As a Ron Paul delegate, what's your message?
My message is this. We have too good a message to become marginalized. Look, it's too easy. We're an easy target, tinfoil hats, yada, 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 okay? And, I mean, there are some Ron Paul people that contribute to that. But for the most part, Ron Paul people are the educated and the scholarly people. I'm saying to you right now, I saw something at the convention, which is very similar to something you said before. I'm not really sure I should say this, but, yeah, I do see Tea Party factions breaking away. If you want a chance to be in the ground floor on something new and exciting, okay, and making something happen in America, you got to come in. And you got to be a part of this, and you got to stop the Obama machine from winning. It's very important.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. Ron Paul, I believe Ron Paul had the delegates. Why didn't the delegates for Ron Paul?
Let me tell you something. That is the kind of thing that really I was so hacked off. You have no idea. Okay, what happened was. You needed a petition from 5 states in order to be able to speak. Paul produced that, and they instantly changed the rule to 8 states to speak. Now, because there wasn't a heavy Tea Party presence, there were a lot of people on Twitter and on the social networks everywhere. Even your Michelle Malkins were fighting this, okay?
Yeah.
Because
it blew up on Twitter. And it exploded on Twitter. People were going insane for it.
Oh, absolutely. And again, that was something that if we had more people in that audience that were Ron Paul, that were Tea Party, okay, that were real conservatives who really love America, whether we agree on all issues or not, we can agree that when someone meets the criteria for the rules should not be changed.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's where but, I mean, also, Ron Paul people, I'm not alone in this. I mean, Rand Paul took the mainstream, okay? If you read what Nick Gillespie at Reason is talking about these days, okay, he's talking about, look, you got 2 viable chances for president, Romney Ryan and Obama. The best chance to get what you want or co-opt them to thinking your way is Romney Ryan.
Right. Well, and I agree with you. I think right now that Romney Ryan, I hate to say lesser of the 2 evils, but let's face it, it is. And
yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down
now,
to. You're true conservative. You can't possibly, be holding the flag thinking these guys are upholding your values. But at the same time, they're the closest thing that you've got, and they're the only way that you've got to network yourself in to have some influence.
Well, and I think it's kind of key that Romney is running on his business record quite a bit. And
that's because the big issue is the economy.
Right. Right now, we need jobs. And if you put Obama and Romney in the room and have me walk in and say, hey, which guy do you think could get you a job quicker? I'm going to take the guy that has some sort of proven business record. And they can say whatever they want about Bain Capital. There's a lot of big businesses out there right now that employ tons of people that would not be there if it wasn't for Romney and his company.
I agree with that, but the other thing, too, though, that people really got to get on board with, and I noticed the Republicans at least paid some lip service to it in the convention, was that debt clock. Because that debt, what people don't realize is that debt is the credit that small businesses can't get right now because there is a finite amount of credit in an economy until there is an explosion of the economy. At 1.5% growth, the tighter that debt gets, the tighter it gets for small businesses to borrow money in order to create jobs, businesses, and make America prosper.
Absolutely, and I have no idea why the Republicans are not putting that debt clock on every single political ad and running that thing through the country have something to where it's continuously updating and continuously just hammering out there so that people get a look at that and really understand what that is, especially the part for what every American owes.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things I would have done during the Romney speech definitely was have that debt clock running behind me instead of running, a couple of big screen pictures of him, have one big shot of that debt clock flying up as he's talking, because that's the only way people understand the urgency.
And I agree with that, but I think, too, during the RNC, a lot of people were slamming Romney, especially the left. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows what he's about. He doesn't really talk about that. So I think that at the RNC this time, they were trying to highlight him not only as the candidate, but as the person to kind of end that disastrous argument.
Yeah, well, I haven't been to three RNCs.
I don't agree with it, but I'm telling you why I think they did it.
Well, no, I've been to 3 RNCs in my life, and they've always been, fluff pieces for the candidate. Right. Even the McCain fiasco, that's all I can say. 2008. It was all about fluff piecing the candidate. Now it's the job of the candidate to go into those debates, especially, and win those debates. I mean, Romney has never really impressed me as a speaker, and definitely not as a debater. I mean, wow, did he have some serious stammers. There was a few during those debates because he wants to say something, but he can't get it out fast as his mind is working. I get that. But he's got to slam on those debates on the economy, or else all's going to be lost. I mean, people know him. He's a human. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's part of my problem with the debates. And there are times when I almost wish they could sit down and write an essay instead of have an outright debate.
They just need to let us moderate the debate.
That's
what they need to do. Because I'll give them a full-on test on the Constitution.
But how many candidates get destroyed during these debates because they weren't quick thinking and quick talking? And I've said this before. I don't want the coolest guy in the room to be president. I don't want the guy that can talk quick and sound awesome and do all that. I want the guy that can really think and make the decision versus
a lot of that too,
though, get everyone clear.
A lot of that, too, comes from the question selection. I mean, I would keep this question selection extremely factual, by the book, because even if you're not a dynamic speaker at that point, you can present your idea. And, some people are going to have bleary eyes watching a debate like that. But when you're trying to pick, you're vetting out the conservatives for your candidate, by them giving a factual answer that involves numbers and figures and things that are completely alien in political debates, then you can pick the right candidate. I mean, Rick Perry got a little bit of short shrift for that. I'm not a big Rick Perry fan, but he does have some areas of conservative belief and some ability to control numbers that, people aren't aware of, and they won't be now because of his debate performances.
Well, he got the deer in the headlights, and, I hate to say it, but, Saturday Night Live gooped him, and it was really close to what happened. And it's sad because, I don't think he's a dumb man. I don't think he's a man who can't articulate his thoughts. I just think he was trying to keep the pace up and, be hard-hitting and quick. And, if that's not your strength, don't try to make it your strength. I'd rather have somebody who speaks exactly what they're trying to say and take their time. But I look at it, especially when I talk about that, I look at it almost like the 3 a.m. phone call with the bomb. I don't want the guy who's going to wake up and immediately go, oh, we're going to press the button, go. I go, okay, so give me some intel. Let me make an informed decision. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. I mean, Newt had that idea with those Jefferson Douglas debate styles, which are kind of cool, but they still do need a moderator. But you need somebody incredibly bland, like a Brian Lamb type of guy, maybe. Like that.
I think they should
listen to the nutso stuff from every individual side and still ask the factual question in that monotone voice, not looking for that gotcha moment, which
I think
almost
they should just have a 9-year-old kid do it. Just agree on the questions ahead of time and have a 9-year-old kid ask them.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what? That would not be a bad idea at all. I mean, something. Anyway, I would at least take maybe some poli-sci majors from colleges.
Yeah, well, we actually have an idea that we want to do on a show here. We don't have any candidates with courage enough to come on and do it. We don't think. Actually, that's not true. Karen Harrington would do it. She's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the 23rd district in Florida.
Yeah, I support her.
But We actually want to do a Constitution Geoparty. It's like Jeopardy, but different, and have them answer constitutional questions. And we think most candidates, probably not Karen, would be completely stumped by that.
Yeah.
But why is there no requirement to take a constitutional test before you run for office? I mean, really. And there's a testing process for most jobs. Like, why not?
Right.
Yeah, that's a thing. Right now the Constitution is really being eroded and shredded by both sides, one way and the other. And I mean, until we can
bring the courts now too.
Yeah, until we can bring the Constitution back into it, that's it's going to continue to happen. And again, without strength in numbers, by being marginalized, you're not going to bring the Constitution into it. You're going to have people pointing at you and laughing at you. When you got the strength in numbers, and those knowledgeable Ron Paul people standing in there with the Tea Party, educating those who don't know, and the Tea Party educating some of the Ron Paul people on the things that they don't know, and working together, you're not going to get that. You're going to get the constant erosion of the Constitution.
Absolutely. And the Constitution is not a very long document by any stretch of the imagination. It's fairly straightforward. I was the history major in school at all. I have done a lot of studying on my own. Hillsdale College does a great online class, and it's free, the Constitution 101, and they have a Constitution 201 class that's starting now, too. You can sign up for it online. Great information. It's not difficult to understand. It's very easy for people to educate themselves on the Constitution. The problem is, I think, that we as American people have gotten lazy on that. We take for granted what our teachers tell us, that they learn from their progressive professors in college and so forth. And we don't read these things on our own. We maybe read a passage of it, and then we read somebody's dissertation or opinion on it, as opposed to reading the founders' documents that backed up their particular thoughts, like reading the Federalist or the Anti-Federalist or the debates on the ratification process for the Constitution. And I think that's where we have failed, not we, you and I, but I think the education system has failed, and where the American citizens have failed, because nobody has these types of discussions anymore. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, people would talk about politics and the meaning of the Constitution and where our country is and going. And I think we're starting to have some more of those discussions now, especially since the 2010 election cycle. But I think that people need to take more responsibility and accountability for what the laws of our nation are, in particular the basis of those laws, which would be like the Constitution and the Declaration.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One of the other people who does it on an even more simple level than that, which is real palatable for people, believe it or not, is Janine Turner from Northern Exposure. She's a conservative constitutionalist. One of her missions in life is to teach the Constitution to kids. And she has a website. For the life of me, I do not have the address in front of me, unfortunately. I don't have my computer ready and handy. But if you look her up, I'm sure whoever is listening will be able to find her. And again, it makes the Constitution very simple. This is your right. This is what this right means, and that's it. It's not a lot of.
What was her name again? I'm sorry. What was her name again? What was her name again? Janine
Turner. She's a frequent guest on O'Reilly. She's been showing up, I guess, on FNC a little bit. She was an actress, the lead actress in Northern Exposure, CBS television show years ago.
I know who you're talking about.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
It's sad that I needed the Northern Exposure to get that, but I knew who it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's out there right now, and she's doing some good work with the Constitution and keeping it real simple, real palatable, actually, you could even say to some extent, sound bite-ish, although, it gives enough of an explanation so you understand, but it's in human terms.
Well, and I think the Constitution was written to be that way, and I think at the time, I think a lot of people, and I know this is crazy, I think a lot of people get caught up in the language of the time that it was written, and I think they start reading that for whatever reason, they tune it out, and they don't realize how important that is, and how it affects us, and even understanding the language of the time, and just how they thought. And you had this group of people that were just amazing thinkers and knew. I mean, it's proven over and over again how brilliant they were when they wrote the Constitution, and how it's been the most successful Constitution of any republic going.
Yeah, I mean, it created
people need
the most.
To understand that.
I mean, even people that are very anti-American these days, they can't dispute that America was a successful nation. The reason why it was a successful nation is because of the Constitution. Yeah, it had some big warts on it, I mean, but actually those, they were ironed out over time. The racial issue, I mean, people can say, well, blacks didn't get civil rights until, X amount of time. Granted, but black people got the right to vote almost a century before women did. So, I mean, eventually these things do work themselves out as public attitudes come forth. But the basis of the Constitution itself, all right, made America the country that it is, and made it so that even the poorest person here lives better than, some of the middle class do in third world countries.
Yeah, and it also, and we talked about this before, and I'm going to wrap it up here in a second because we're going to go to a break, but it definitely gives people the right to do whatever they want to be successful, and it encourages it. It tells you, it lets you be free. It lets you be that person you want to be if you want to be an artist or a computer person, whatever it is, and you just don't have that in a lot of other countries. And that's, the basis for capitalism really is, in my opinion, a lot of the basis for the Constitution. They go hand in hand.
Well,
it's that
Wealth of Nations was written in 1776, so yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, that's huge. And I think when people start talking about, getting away from capitalism, they start talking to me about getting away from the Constitution, and that scares me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Me too. You guys are great.
Rolf,
I want you to know that.
You know what? I really appreciate it, sir. I know we chatted on Twitter a few times. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate your insight. Make sure you give us a call back sometime. We'd love to hear
you. Love to talk to you. Thank you
very
much.
I'm sure I'll be pulling thorns out of my butt all week over this now on Twitter and the other social networks I'm involved in. But, I'm okay
there's not enough people to listen to us. So.
Yeah, seriously. I don't think those 20 people are going to be all that mad at you.
Okay. All right, guys.
Hey, Ralph.
Thanks a lot.
In, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, it was a good call. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to get into the RNC, or do you want to get into the other story we talked about?
Yeah, I don't know. I took my headphones off. I'm on break.
All right. So we're going to take a commercial.
Not that I'm unionized or anything, so you can, order me back to work, but not really because we're partners.
Get back to work. Let's move to the Friday Night Fiasco with Sackheads Radio.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. We're fortunate enough to have our friend Vanessa do our news briefs. If you like her news briefs, she is a voiceover talent. Check out Platinum Vocal Cords. She has over 15 years radio and voiceover experience. Graduated Northwestern State University with a liberal arts degree. Don't let that scare you, folks. She is a true sackhead. Please check her out. Again, that's PlatinumVocalCords.com. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
3, 2.
I love how you're still doing the countdown. We discussed 3,
Hey, and welcome back to the Friday Night Fiasco. 1st of September. Is it really the September 1st already?
No, it's not.
Oh, you're back?
This is the August 31st show.
You 15-minute mandatory union break in the other room. No, it's not a big deal. It's cool.
No, if I was union, I'd have like a... Never mind.
Phone number is 347-205-9399. You're monitoring news over there, are you not?
I am not.
Okay, good.
You closed all the tabs. No, I am. I am monitoring. The California State Legislature is still in session.
Okay.
I am monitoring their live feed, waiting to see if anything happens. But it's the California Legislature, so.
And what are you watching for, specifically?
Okay, so Senator Darrell Steinberg is supposed to introduce legislation, if he hasn't already, to, as I understand it, remove any caps for personal injury claims.
Really?
Oh yeah, the personal injury lawyers are all over this. They think it's awesome, and it's of course everybody else is against it. The rumor is he doesn't have the votes to get the bill passed, so he's going to wait until everybody who would vote no goes away or goes home because it's the last day of session, and then he's going to introduce the bill and vote on it and pass it. Because, hey, that's what representative government is all about, right?
So you're going to watch on that and keep that in the background. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but hopefully if something does happen, we'll be able to...
How dirty is that?
It's awful politics. Once again, it is convenient politics.
And you know what? Seriously, this guy, I don't know how he keeps getting elected because...
Well, people keep going to the booth and pulling the handle. Oh, you mean...
I'm
sorry, I thought you meant literally. Are you eating?
Are you kidding me? I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that I made.
I know, mine's staring me in the face.
I know, I made it for you
I'm
too.
A pro, and I'm not going to eat while I'm on the air, at least until you go into a long rant.
Yeah, I'm not going to go on a rant, but so that's kind of what I'm watching for. I don't know, maybe something really newsworthy will happen, like, you know, he'll have a girlfriend pop up or something like that. That would be awesome, but I'm just waiting for something to happen here. I don't know.
Well, you know, if it does happen in the next, let's say, hour and 8 minutes, we'll let you know. So,
not that I can hear anything because I have the volume turned down. But I'll watch. I'll see.
It's my fault. Well, you'll know if everyone's going to vote because, well, they put on their wigs.
Hey.
Oh, wait, that's Britain. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this is something totally different. Although California's becoming, never mind.
What?
Hey, something about what we were talking about, news stories that kind of get buried. I came across a story, and it scared me a little bit at first, and it still kind of scares me, but I'm thinking more about it like I have a tendency to do. Tony Rollins from 9 on Your Side, which is a local station out of Greenville, Washington, New Bern, and Jacksonville, North Carolina, reported on a story where Marines and civilian police officers was conducting an urban training exercise. And it took place in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where it was a 3-week training series where SWAT officers and Marines trained in various exercises and real-life scenarios with hands-on instructions for joint operations. And it concerned me because the story as it came out was that, well, Brian Dye, who's the operations chief in Lexington, Kentucky, says that training civilians as a blended force with Marine Corps personnel eases the transition into a real-world scenario, and that's a direct quote from the story. And that scared me at first, because why do you need a blended force with civilian law enforcement and United States military personnel? And look, you and I are both big supporters of military personnel, as well as law enforcement in our public safety sector.
Yep.
Look, I thank the men and women in uniform for their job, their sacrifice, both in civilian public safety as well as our men and women in uniform in the armed forces. God bless you all for the jobs you do. The issue I have is, as an American citizen, because the government and the military is not supposed to operate and take action on United States citizens. So why would military personnel be training with law enforcement, specifically a special weapons and tactics team, to take action? I mean, let's face it, SWAT teams are not going overseas. Therefore, this is probably being trained up as a domestic issue. Yeah, and according to the story, some of the scenarios included vehicle assault, hostage rescue, and barricaded suspect scenarios. Now, hostage rescue, barricaded suspect, maybe I can see those scenarios to some degree the more I thought about this, because we have terrorist organizations who've said that the attacks that have taken place, like in Beslan, Russia, and in Mumbai, India, are dry runs for what's going to happen here in the United States. And if you have a major event like that, obviously local law enforcement and emergency personnel are going to be the first to respond on scene. SWAT teams are going to be called in to respond to that type of incident. And something like a Beslan or a Mumbai, I could see military coming in to assist or take over for the SWAT teams that are on scene.
Well,
but now you have.
I was going to make real quick is it possible this is a training for what they've learned overseas with dealing with terrorists, and maybe they've learned some new techniques and they're sharing it?
No, but they said it eases the transition into a blended force.
Well, that's scary.
Yeah, training civilians as a blended force with Marine Corps personnel eases the transition into a real-world scenario. That's the part that scares me. Look, I'm all for law enforcement, SWAT teams getting training from the military with lessons that have been learned overseas in war zones and so forth. And conversely, I am all for military personnel getting training from law enforcement SWAT operators who have training in house-to-house and fighting in an urban environment, because that's not a traditional role of the military, to assist the military in fighting overseas. But when you're talking about a blended force here in the United States to operate within the United States, I have serious questions about that, to say the least. Mm-hmm. But the hostage rescue, barricaded suspect scenarios, in those specific types of events, I can see that blended force scenario playing out. However, according to Tony Rawlings in the story, is vehicle assaults were also included in that. And I don't know why a military or a blended force with our civilians would necessarily need to be practicing specific vehicle assaults as a blended unit. I mean, hostage rescue, Beslan, Mumbai, we already talked about that. Barricaded suspect, even on one of those things where, you know, you have a lone gunman or somebody who's holed up in an apartment or something by themselves, won't come out, why you need a blended force to deal with that, or why a blended force would deal with that stateside, I don't know. I don't know why this is taking place. I'm guessing, only a guess, that maybe it has something to do with posse comitatus, if that were ever declared. But the end of the story indicated that was phase 1 of the training. Phase 2 of the training is going to involve sniper and designated marksman training.
Well, and like you said, if there's a Mumbai-style attack, and let's say, hypothetically, that they get enough terrorists to do 10 or 15 at once, simultaneously, there's a good chance that local resources will be expended. So you can understand it in that regard.
In that one context, or in that very, very, very limited context, I can see that.
And if they were training SWAT teams like, hey, if we were ever invaded and you needed to do your thing, but we're going to be, obviously then, if we ever got invaded, which hasn't happened in how long, but
the War of 1812?
Yeah, so, wow, that was a good call on that. I should be in there, Johnny, on the spot. Anyhow,
I said I don't know. That's not true. Didn't the Japanese come up some of the Aleutian Islands?
Well, and actually, I guess you can argue, too, that the Germans were off the coast of Maine at one point, and I think Miami, too. So
yeah, they invaded our waterways. Good job.
But you can understand if that was the training, like, hey, if somebody ever invaded, this is, what your role would be. Well, the military does this, you would do local, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what the role would be. Okay, I can understand that. But when you're specifically training the blend of force outside of a Mumbai-style attack, outside of a major invasion, outside of...
And again, we don't know. We don't know what that is. Again, I'm all for law enforcement and military sharing training and training together. I think that's important.
Well, yeah, it saves lives.
However, why they're having this phase one and particularly the vehicle assault, the one that made me kind of say, that's interesting. And then the phase two being the sniper and designated marksman training. Look, law enforcement and military snipers have different missions. And I'm curious as to what a blended sniper or designated marksman team would do. Military has a different... Go to coffee. Look, I see a lot of cops with coffee, so yes. The military has a different mission than law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
So it stands to reason that military snipers have a different mission than law enforcement snipers.
Correct.
You look at...
I would stipulate.
You would stipulate. That's what I'm saying. You look at military sniper missions and you read some of the books that are out there that have been written by some military snipers, and they are out there to do a particular mission, and that is to take out an enemy combatant threat, and also to act as observers. A law enforcement sniper, law enforcement's not out there executing people. They're not out there in a war zone. I mean, yeah, some neighborhoods could be considered a war zone, but they're not out there in a war zone to where they're going to look through their scope on their rifle and just arbitrarily shoot somebody as an enemy combatant. I mean, law enforcement has very specific rules they have to follow. And I think if we did a little bit of research on this, you look at the traditional law enforcement sniping instances, and they're all, I think, pretty much within a couple hundred yards, versus military snipers that are shooting out, according to those books that I read, how long, a mile or something with a 50 they're shooting out. Completely different missions. So why are you blending that? That was something else that caused me concern.
Yeah, well, like I said, if it's a sharing of information and a specific tactic to help save lives, either, as law enforcement to protect themselves, military to protect themselves, I get it. But at what point does the line start being blurred?
It already has been blurred, I think. So I want to know why, and the reporters in the story I read, again, 9 on your side, didn't ask that question, right, as to why they reported on what was happening.
Well, because neither one of us are veterans, and let's take a phone call. I have a sneaking suspicion we may have a veteran on the phone. I'd like to get their take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sackheads Radio, you're on the air.
Yeah, actually, I've been accused of being a fake veteran on Blog Talk Radio, so,
That's right. I've been accused of being a fake human being a few times, and so, we all have our crosses to bear.
I got like 20 women telling me that, too, so, of course they're wrong.
20 women? You're a stud.
Hey, Bob.
I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm a stud.
Hey, Bob,
I'm not even a Mormon.
You're a veteran. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, think about oh my God, I'm looking for an article right now that I saw about maybe a couple months back in the New York Times. It's called Shots Fired. Shots Fired, located and talked about, where there's a big fire control center. There's a lot of city police departments hire their services, and when there's gunfire, they basically have GPS positioning, and they have sensors that can kind of see where the gunshot's coming from. The police.
Yeah.
And
I'm very well aware of that. They actually used they tested it in Boston at the time I was living there. It was all over the news. So it's essentially it's a microphone that sets up this audio pitch, and it's specific to the they enter a whole bunch of gunshot signatures into it, and when it's shot, it makes an alert, almost like like you said, a GPS type alert, even though it's not GPS, it's fixed, but and it'll activate almost like a house alarm, and it'll dispatch the police to that area. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. That's exactly the one. In fact, I just found the article, and I will link it in your chat room right now. And when I look at that, first thing I thought when I saw that article, and let me see when it's from. It's May 28th, 2012.
Oh, May 29th. Sorry.
Yeah, that's when this article was written, May 28th or 28th, whatever. And so first thing I thought when I saw this article and read it was scenario during civil unrest, revolution. We get tired of a totalitarian, repressive regime. The people rise up, Second Amendment rights, and then you add on 30,000 drones up there. And then more recently, within the last week or two, whatever it was, 750 million rounds of hollow point ammunition. And then you think in terms of the totalitarianism of this regime and basically the left in general and world history of totalitarian regimes, where they are not shy about, what do? They get power, then the next thing they do is what? Consolidate their power. How do they do that? Eliminate the opposition. This is not, 1 + 1 is equal to 2 in my book. My spidey senses are tingling. Yes.
Well, and they strip gun rights. Hitler did it in World War II. You can go back through several different countries that they strip gun rights. They strip the citizenry of weapons and the ability to defend themselves.
Hey, Bob. Let me ask you,
sure,
without getting specifics, because I don't want you to get in any more trouble than you're already in.
Well, hey.
Did you ever do any training like that when you were in the military?
No, I was in a long time ago. I'm older than what you guys probably think. I have a young voice, but I was in.
I had you pegged for 22, 23.
Oh, you're way, way off, buddy. But bless you. We can. Hey, if they're gonna accuse me of being fake, we may as well just go with that number 2. What the fuck?
Easy now, easy.
Did I say that? Excuse me.
That's all right. So you did no training like that when you were in the service?
None.
All right.
None.
Well, I wanted
None.
to, I saw you in the chat room, and I said, Bob's one of our in-house veterans. I wanted to get your opinion. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Bob, I got a quick question for you.
I'm throwing it to Clint.
Sorry,
sure.
were you an officer or did you work for a living?
No, I worked for a living. I got out as an NCO after 3 years. I was a corporal when I got out. I was on tanks, so they weren't. I don't know how much tanks are going to be doing in a civil unrest situation, but they didn't have military units doing that back then. I was under Reagan. This is more of a leftist thing, man. These there's infiltration in our military right now, deep in the officers' corps right now, by leftists.
We talked about that last week when we touched on this subject earlier last week, that there's a lot of officers that are very much on board with the progressive movement.
I'm curious what would happen. And look, when the Civil War broke out, you had some generals. Robert E. Lee. Look, I know there was a ballistic sub named after him. He was a West Point graduate. Served honorably in the United States Army. When the Civil War broke out, he separated because he didn't want to go against his home state of Virginia, and so he fought for the Confederacy. I really wonder if, and we hope this doesn't happen, but God forbid Civil War breaks out in this country, I wonder what percentage of active duty officers, personnel, and so forth would support which side, and also what assets would they take? What would law enforcement do? Hey, they're sworn to uphold the Constitution, and most law enforcement, firefighters, and so forth that I know and have talked to, they're pretty conservative. But what happens with that? And again, God forbid anything like that ever happens. But I'm wondering, what do you think, Bob?
My opinion is that the most of the military will be on the conservative side if it was, that kind of thing, and it would be somewhat fractured. I think it might seem like infiltration. You'll see like more evidence of the infiltration. You might see like oh my, there might be like gunshots one side against each other in the halls of the Pentagon. Actually, no, I'm dead serious.
Yeah, well,
I mean, and all you got to do is look at what's been happening in the military. You had Fort Hood, where they refused to call it a terrorist event.
Yeah,
exactly. And you had the Army's like been kind of a little bit politically corrected, and then you've got Admiral Mullen. He's kind of a little bit swaying to the left, if you ask me.
They turned themselves inside out to turn that into an active shooter and not a terrorist incident. And they actually wrote the final thing, workplace violence, like that's what they knocked it down to. Now, if there's a shooting in an office owned by a private business, that's workplace violence. When it's an Army major who gave all the signs that he was going to cause a problem, and then he went in and he shot all those poor people and had to be shot and taken out by local law enforcement, that's a terrorist activity.
Look, it's not like he's growing a beard and doing those other things that traditional terrorists do right now.
Does it not scare anybody else that we even have to have this discussion? That's the most frightening part to me is, 5-6 years ago, if somebody was having a discussion like this, I would have sat there and went, you're crazy. There's no way this country is that close to civil war. But now, I mean, the way things are right now in this country is just so divided, so separated. You just have people that's just, it's scary, doesn't it? Does it scare you, Bob?
It doesn't scare me because, I know what I'd have to do. But, I mean, no, I'm not joking, man. And I'll be honest, I'll put it out there right now. I don't really care who's listening. And I mean this. I'd rather die in a civil war to save America than to live under some totalitarian, far-left, radical, outrageous, just big brother garbage. I'd rather, instead of them not having to actually kill us all and earn it, instead of, they go underneath, they go behind the curtain with the psychological thing, and it's very slow and creeping. That's the way they're doing it because they can't beat us with shots fired, in a firefight. No, we will win.
I agree. It scares me that this country is that divided that we even have to have this conversation. It makes me wonder where we lost our way. And hey, Bob, we're going to go into a commercial, so if you want to jump in the back in the chat room, we're going to take a commercial and come back. We'll go to the RNC. But thanks, man. I wanted to get your intake on that, or your input, rather, not your intake. Your input. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks, Bob, for weighing in on that story.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it a lot.
Anytime. So that's what scares me more than anything else is this country, we're so divided right now that this conversation isn't even outlandish. It's not even crazy to have because there are plenty of people that feel that it's not that far away, and there's certainly a number of people that think that if this president stays in the next 4 years, that we're going to be closer than we ever have been. Well, minus the first Civil War, but I don't want to get into that. So
I'm sorry, did you say something?
No. So I was just talking about you while you walked away.
Perfect.
So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the RNC.
Oh, you mean we're not on break right now?
We're not yet. Huh. We cover the RNC. We come back. The phone number is 347-205-9399. Anything you want to talk about, call in. We're going to monitor California and see what they're doing on the vote there. And then we're going to talk about a story out of North Carolina that is just out.
Senate just voted on a budget and passed it, so that's probably not good.
So this is Sackheads Radio. We'll be back in a minute.
Sackheads Radio.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. We often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, POLITIGAL Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
The graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
3, 2, I love how you're still doing the countdown. We discussed 3,
And now we're live. Sorry about that, folks. Welcome back to Sackheads Radio. I was trying to screw with you.
Consummate professionals.
I was trying to mess with Clint, and I screwed myself up. So something big happened.
That's because I put a block on you. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I totally put a block on you.
Hey, you know what you can't block? The Stitcher app. If you listen on your mobile device, check it out. Just download Stitcher app, sign up, log in if you're new, use the promo code.
That was the worst segue ever heard in my life.
Use the promo code SACKHEAD, SACKHEAD, and you'll be entered to win a $100 gift card to something awesome. I don't have it in front of me because all my notes are screwy right now. So the just happened this week was the RNC.
A what?
The RNC. RNC. Stop.
Oh, that's a good cola.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry. I'm a little punchy.
We had a couple. Oh God. We had a couple. There was a couple actually really good speakers. For whatever reason.
A couple? Seriously?
Oh, I know. Who was your favorite so far? Who do you think the best?
Well, so far it's over. You are just all twisted up tonight. Are you okay?
Over. It's going on in my head.
Boston,
right
Oakland. Are we going to try and catch a game? By the way,
can we just check, please? Let's stick.
I'm sorry. Wonderful.
Yeah. See, you're making guest lead. So the RNC was this week.
Bye.
I was torn as to who I liked more. First of all, Marco Rubio, I thought, did an amazing job.
I think Marco Rubio did an amazing job.
But
he's everybody's favorite, so he's not going to be my favorite.
He had a little bit of a gaffe at one point. He said something about bigger government.
For what?
It was a complete mistake. He just misspoke. It wasn't.
So what?
I know.
Then why are you bringing it up?
Because people attacked it immediately.
Of course they did.
And it was ridiculous.
Of course they did. You know what? How many speeches were given? How many words were spoken? And what did they attack? They attacked the one gap where he missed. He mixed two things up.
And you heard his story and just about his parents and coming, in here and just living the American dream. He was, for me, I think he was one of the highlights. Chris Christie was great.
I like Chris Christie's speech. I know he took some flack because he took too long to discuss Mitt Romney or to bring Mitt Romney up. You know what? I think Chris Christie, what he was doing, what I took from it, he laid a foundation for the Republican platform. And he did it by illustrating what he did in the state of New Jersey. For example, New Jersey is a liberal state. And I think what he was actually appealing to, perhaps, definitely the independents, but perhaps even some people that typically vote Democrat or that vote to the left by saying, hey, look, New Jersey gave us, the Republican Party, a chance through me. And look what we accomplished here. And so you should give Mitt Romney a chance, us a chance, the Republicans a chance through Mitt Romney, and just imagine what we can do for this country. That's what I took from it. I didn't take it as a huge pat on the back that he was setting himself up for 2016.
No.
I didn't take it as, he was all about himself and then added Mitt Romney towards the end. I honestly took it, and even before all the pundits started talking about it, I honestly took it as a, hey, you know what? He was setting the entire convention up because he was the first keynote speaker.
Yeah.
He was setting the entire convention up. Yep, and appealing to that voter base, as well as to the conservatives, obviously, but saying, look, you gave us a chance here. In a very liberal state, you gave our party a chance through me. We accomplished X, Y, and Z, and you know what? You need to give our party a chance now on a national level, and do it through Mitt Romney. I thought it was very well done.
And he also was really good about articulating what he has accomplished and what he had, not as Chris Christie, but as a Republican, as a conservative, what he's accomplished, what he's been able to change. First of all, to pass a budget that was actually good in New Jersey, to lower their deficit, to stand up to teachers' unions when it was time, and make it about the kids and not about the teachers' union. That was one of my favorite lines, and I may be a little off, but he said, I don't love teachers' unions, but I love teachers, or something to that effect, and I think that was perfect. That really nailed it home. And he's been able to get Democrats on board with his policies, and he hasn't compromised much. I mean, he's very outspoken and very. I think he's very charismatic. I think he is going to have a future in the Republicans. But I agree with you. I don't think that this was highlighting him. I think he was highlighting the party and setting the platform
through his accomplishments in a very liberal state.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what I took from it. I like Chris Christie. You asked me who my favorite was. I cannot say Marco Rubio just because most people are saying Marco Rubio. So just to be contrary, I'm going to say contrary.
Oh,
I really liked Paul Ryan's speech.
I thought Paul Ryan's speech was very good as well.
And I liked Ann Romney's speech.
Yeah, see, I'm torn. First of all, I thought Ann Romney was fantastic. And if you haven't listened to it, I wish I had the audio here. Go listen to it. It's on YouTube. It's all over the place.
Well, we had the audio.
The board aided on me. She was just.
I thought she did a very good job. She painted Mitt Romney as a human being and a father, husband, grandfather, and she summed it up. I think not summed it up, but she made a very good point when she said that Mitt doesn't like to talk about himself. He's a very humble person, and coming from his wife and his children that I saw some interviews of, and kind of paying attention to Mitt Romney with through those lenses, as opposed to just he's kind of aloof and doesn't connect with people, but taking a step back and looking at it from maybe he is just very very reserved and humble,
and that's okay.
But you know what? Looking at him from a perspective of being humble, some things make sense now.
Yeah.
Look, I don't agree with all of his policies, obviously, but I think that he's the best option that we have right now.
And he's getting better.
Getting this country turned around.
I think he's becoming a better option. I think a lot of people, conservatives, were kind of under the thought of view is that he was aloof and unattached, and they didn't really.
My issues came from a policy perspective. I don't care. Somebody's personality, I don't care. I don't care if you're, a lot of people think Chris Christie is a jerk. A lot of people think Barack Obama is a very nice guy, and I'm sure he is. I don't have a problem with either one of those men on a personal level, but policy is where I disagree with some of Mitt Romney's ideals.
Well, before you cut me off, what I was going to say is...
No, that's not what you were going to say.
A lot of the flack that he took was that nobody really knew what policies he put where. He was very... not as direct as people would like to have seen him on certain policies.
You mean conservative?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't.
But he wasn't outward with it. He was just kind of in the gray area. I thought he came out a lot stronger this time and articulated some things that I think people were much happier to hear. He took a strong stance, and I have.
Well, he has to, but you got to look at his record, and his record shows that he's soft on some things in some areas. That he is, very middle of the road, which a lot of people like. I prefer not so middle of the road. I prefer more conservative. And he has some of that conservative rhetoric going now, but look at the rhetoric Obama had 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I still have my concerns about him from a policy perspective. But hey, you know what? This election is about the economy right now and jobs. And Mitt Romney, I think, that is his strong point.
Well, and I think he summed it up pretty well. And I have a clip here about his thoughts on Obama and jobs, and I'm going to play it.
How many days have you woken up feeling that something really special was happening in America? Many of you felt that way on Election Day 4 years ago. Hope and change had a powerful appeal. But tonight, I'd ask a simple question. If you felt that excitement when you voted for Barack Obama, shouldn't you feel that way now that he's President Obama? You know there's something wrong with the kind of job he's done as president when the best feeling you had was the day you voted for him.
And you know what? That sentence right there was very, very powerful for me. And my opinion, I think that sentence could be one of those defining sentences for him as a candidate for this this election cycle. I think it was that good of a line, and I don't know if speech writer came up with that, if he came up with that, but I think that line hits home with a lot of people.
Well, it adds perspective. I think a lot of people, you can go and look at numbers, and numbers can be manipulated constantly, and you can do all that, but I think that alone shows exactly, and it sums up the Obama administration.
You know what? What it does is it puts a very personal touch on things, and it puts an emotional touch on it.
Yeah.
So you're not talking to people now like Mitt Romney is very good at talking to people on an intellectual level, talking figures,
numbers,
cold hard facts. On an intellectual level, that's where I've seen him mostly communicate, and I think that he's not fallen short, but he's maybe pushed some people away, or people haven't felt like they can really warm up to him because he can come across that way. In addition to being humble, but when he said those words and he puts an emotional spin on it, that touches people not on an intellectual level, but on a heartfelt level. Wow, I did feel good that one day I voted for him, and I don't feel that now.
Yeah.
I felt that there, but I don't feel as excited as I was. I do feel disheartened. I do feel, whatever it is, but you're going from I think this because of this data, and you know what? I feel this.
No, I agree. And earlier on, too, in his speech, he said something to the effect when he was talking about the president is, after elections, the country has to reunify. You have to get rid of the politics that separates us and come together. And he said, after President Obama was elected the last time, he said, I wanted to be behind him. I wanted him to be successful because then the country would be successful. And it wasn't so much about the president, but it was about the country. And then he went into that. And I think he, like you said, he nailed it. I think a lot of people went, yeah, you know what? I voted for him because I thought he was going to do a lot of great things, and he hasn't done any of it. He's made things worse in a lot of regards. And now you can argue war, you can argue a lot of things. The first thing that I think this country needs to be fixed right now is the economy. Patriotism needs to be fixed in this country, things like that. People need to understand why we're such a great country. Yes, all that needs to be done, but that's something that we need to teach each other. I think the first job as the president right now is to work on the economy, and that includes repealing health care. And he's a numbers guy. I think he could be good. And with Ryan as the number two, and we all know he's a very conservative economic man. I think that's huge. He also, and we're playing this a little out of order how it occurred, but he also took a strong foreign policy. And I'm going to play this clip real quick that I like to see because I really agree with this. And here's Romney on Iran and Russia.
On another front, every American is less secure today because he has failed to slow Iran's nuclear threat. In his first TV interview as president, he said we should talk to Iran. We're still talking, and Iran's centrifuges are still spinning. President Obama has thrown allies like Israel under the bus, even as he has relaxed sanctions on Castro's Cuba. He abandoned our friends in Poland by walking away from our missile defense commitments. But he's eager to give Russia's President Putin the flexibility he desires after the election. Under my administration, our friends will see more loyalty, and Mr. Putin will see a little less flexibility and more backbone.
Oh, sorry, I thought I would say it again. So I really like that. I think that summed up his foreign policy. I think a lot of people who are looking at this president's foreign policy, and let's face it, he's not highly respected through a lot of world leaders, specifically as Romney identified there, Iran and Russia. I think that it's a great message to Putin right off the bat that, hey, if I'm elected, the game's end. We're not going to kowtow to you at all. We're going to do what we need to do to keep our allies safe, and you're either on board or you're not, and we don't care, and I like that. And also, he took that strong stance with Iran. I'll tell you right now, Iran plays these games because they can right now, and they know they can.
These little reindeer games?
Yeah, these little reindeer games. And that'll end if they have a president.
When we nuke them?
Who they know is not afraid to deal with them harshly. And that, I'm not saying go right to war or anything like that, but actually, like, say, hey, you know what? You have to the count of whatever to, and I'm sure he wants it to count of whatever. I'm sure he'll have a specific date in mind, but I'm an idiot, so I don't. To end this, or in the interest of Israel and the rest of the Middle East, we will. And if the UN's not on board, well, that's their problem.
Yes.
Okay. So I really like to see that he got his foreign policy out there. I thought that was great. The last thing, and I kind of waited the last, this is going to be a long clip, so I'm going to put my feet up. This is him on his history, and I think this is a lot of things that people don't really know about him, and this is him growing up and just who he is. And for me, there's stuff that I didn't even know about this, and I've read on the man quite a bit. I've looked into him. When I lived in Massachusetts, when I was growing up, he was a governor. But I think this will definitely start to open people up who don't feel like they have anything in common with him and kind of explain who he is. So this is Mitt on his personal history. Stay tuned through. We'll be back on the other side.
But his promises gave way to disappointment and division. This isn't something we have to accept. Now is the moment when we can do something. And with your help, we will do something. Now is the moment when we can stand up and say, I'm an American. I make my destiny. We deserve better. My children deserve better. My family deserves better. My country deserves better. So here we stand. Americans have a choice, a decision. To make that choice, you need to know more about me and where I'd lead our country. I was born in the middle of the century, in the middle of the country, a classic baby boomer. It was a time when Americans were returning from war and eager to work. To be an American was to assume that all things were possible. When President Kennedy challenged Americans to go to the moon, the question wasn't whether we'd get there, it was only when we'd get there. The soles of Neil Armstrong's boots on the moon made permanent impressions on our souls. Ann and I watched those steps together on her parents' sofa. Like all Americans, we went to bed that night knowing we lived in the greatest country in the history of the world. God bless Neil Armstrong. Tonight, that American flag is still there on the moon. And I don't doubt for a second that Neil Armstrong's spirit is still with us. That unique blend of optimism, humility, and the utter confidence that when the world needs someone to do the really big stuff, you need an American. My dad had been born in Mexico, and his family had to leave during the Mexican Revolution. I grew up with stories of his family being fed by the U.S. government as war refugees. My dad never made it through college, and he apprenticed as a lath and plaster carpenter. He had big dreams. He convinced my mom, a beautiful young actress, to give up Hollywood to marry him. They moved to Detroit. He led a great... He led a great automobile company and became governor of the great state of Michigan. We were Mormons, and growing up in Michigan, that might have seemed unusual or out of place, but I really don't remember it that way. My friends cared more about what sports teams we followed than what church we went to. My mom and dad gave their kids the greatest gift of all, the gift of unconditional love. They cared deeply about who we would be and much less about what we would do. Unconditional love is a gift that Ann and I have tried to pass on to our sons and now to our grandchildren. All the laws and legislation in the world will never heal this world like the loving hearts and arms of mothers and fathers. You know, if every child could drift to sleep feeling wrapped in the love of their family and God's love, this world would be a far more gentle and better place. My mom and dad were married for 64 years. And if you wondered what their secret was, you could have asked the local florist. Because every day, Dad gave Mom a rose, which he put on her bedside table. That's how she found out what happened on the day my father died. She went looking for him because that morning there was no rose. My mom and Dad were true partners, a life lesson that shaped me by everyday example. When my mom ran for the Senate, my dad was there for her every step of the way. I could still see her saying in her beautiful voice, "Why should women have any less say than men about the great decisions facing our nation?" Don't you wish you could have been here at this convention and heard leaders like Governor Mary Fallon, Governor Nikki Haley, Governor Susana Martinez, Senator Kelly Ayotte, and Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice? As governor of Massachusetts, I chose a woman lieutenant governor, a woman chief of staff. Half of my cabinet and senior officials were women. And in business, I mentored and supported great women leaders who went on to run great companies. I grew up in Detroit in love with cars and wanted to be a car guy like my dad. But by the time I was out of school, I realized that I had to go out on my own, that if I stayed around Michigan in the same business, I'd never really know if I was getting a break because of my dad. I wanted to go someplace new and prove myself. Those weren't the easiest of days. Many long hours and weekends working, 5 young sons who seemed to have this need to reenact a different world war every night. But if you ask Ann and I what we'd give to break up just one more fight between the boys, or wake up in the morning and discover a pile of kids asleep in our room, well, every mom and dad knows the answer to that. Those days were these were tough days on Ann, particularly. She was heroic through it all. 5 boys with our families a long way away. I had to travel a lot for my job then, and I'd call and try to offer support. But every mom knows that doesn't help get the homework done or get the kids out the door to school. And I knew that her job as a mom was harder than mine, and I knew without question that her job as a mom was a lot more important than mine. And as America saw Tuesday night, Ann would have succeeded at anything she wanted to do.
So I thought that was good for people that that don't know him. I really think it kind of gave you an insight to who he was as a dad, where he came from, the fact that they lived in this tiny apartment and paid $70 a month. People have a theory about him that he was just handed money. He didn't have to work for anything. I'm not saying that if he needed money, he couldn't have called Dad and got money, but plenty of people have done that, and I don't think that's a reason to alienate the person. I honestly think that it gives a good insight into who he is. I thought the speech was well written all the way around. I thought he presented it well. You know, we've talked before that sometimes the way he talks in large groups, if it's not about numbers and business, he kind of gets a little discombobulated sometimes, and he's not necessarily a great handshaking people person. But
I have a bone to pick with some conservatives, and they're not going to like me very much for this, but that's okay. It's not a popularity contest. Look, and it has to do with Mitt Romney being a Mormon, because that has been an issue.
It has.
And you know, the Huffington Post has pointed it out, and some anti-Romney ads have pointed it out, and there's even been a lot of Christian books, or Christian groups, not a lot. There have been some Christian groups who have pointed this out, and one post I read even said that something to the effect of, well, the Book of Mormon places man above God in the Scriptures, therefore, is it possible he's the Antichrist? Which, to me, is ridiculous assertion to make. I think that he is a good man. I am not of the Mormon faith, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe him to be a good man. Look, we have freedom of religion in this country. Mm-hmm. You may not agree with his religion or anybody else's religion, as long as it's nonviolent in nature. Well, look, I thought of something here. When the first Continental Congress met in September of 1774, some of the delegates wanted to open with a prayer. And I don't know, I was thinking about this the other day, but a debate almost broke out as to, well, who would say the prayer, because there are so many faiths that are represented here, and not all of the faiths obviously agreed with each other. And Samuel Adams actually stood up, but he settled the matter, and he said that, and this is a quote, he said, "I'm no bigot, and I could hear a prayer from any gentleman of piety and virtue who was not at the same time a friend to his country." And after he said that, the motion for prayer was approved. And this illustrates two things. First and foremost, that why is his faith such an issue? Yeah, he was a bishop in the Mormon church. His religion and his belief system, the Mormon church doesn't preach anything I believe to be, harmful to our country. I'm not in the Mormon church. I confess that. But I believe him to be a good person. I believe that he loves his country. And therefore, I don't understand why his faith is an issue and why somebody would jam him up on that. I mean, Obama got a pass on Jeremiah Wright, and Jeremiah Wright was anti-American.
I was just about to say that. It's funny what a huge pass he got on that.
Yeah, and he was, anti-American, talking about,
goddamn America.
Goddamn America, and the chickens have come home to roost, and all the other stuff he was saying.
And then when people try to bring it up this election, we're immediately told, that was old hat.
Yeah, it's old hat. It's already been discussed.
He doesn't go there anymore. He only goes to church when he's running for stuff anyhow.
But I think it's
sorry.
It's okay. Words from one of our founders, which, hey, we conservatives love our founders. We love the founding of our country. We love the Constitution, and we believe in the Constitution, the ideals that this country was founded upon. So I just wanted to that came to mind. I wanted to share that with our listeners. That being said, I think Romney did a great job at the convention, and I think he did a good job in his speech. Again, I don't agree with all his policies, and that's okay. I think that he is the best person right now for the job to hit the economy, and also, let's face it, it is a choice between him and Obama, and I firmly believe that this is a very, very important election for our country. Probably the most important election in our country
of our time.
I would say maybe even since Lincoln Douglas.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And we've said this before, and I'll say it again. An unchecked Obama for the next 4 years scares me. And they're going to be pulling out all the stops in the next couple of weeks leading up to November, which is only 2.5 months away. Not even 2.5, 2 months away roughly. It's going to get dirty. I think the RNC, all in all, was great. And I thought they did a good job of getting their message. Again, I don't agree with everything on every platform, and there are certainly things that I don't necessarily agree with on this platform. But I think as far as if anyone's going to represent my interest, I'm most closely aligned with the Republicans. And I thought they did a good job of getting people fired up and getting people going. The keynote speakers, again, I would have liked to have seen Sarah Palin in there, but the keynote speakers this year I thought were really good. And I thought it was all in all a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. I was impressed. I was concerned that Romney announcing his running mate prior to the convention would take some of the nice word.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome. I'm gonna wait. I think I have those letters with words.
Words with friends.
I was concerned, but I think it went well. I think Clint Eastwood, his speech was different.
Yeah,
I think he was being artistic. He is an actor. But the fact that he was there
says a lot.
I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it was. And
it's no secret. I love Clint Eastwood anyways.
There were times where I was cringing watching him because I was having a hard time. Is he being theatrical or is this just him being him, unscripted? I thought his interaction with the empty chair was actually very funny. It almost like he was uncomfortable, and you could say, well, he's in movies, how he's being uncomfortable, but I don't know if he's necessarily that comfortable in front of a lot of people. And I watched him in a couple of award shows, and just to kind of get some sort of reference. And even when he was younger, he wasn't that. You could tell he wasn't that comfortable. So I'm hoping with you that it was an artistic thing and it was a theatrical piece, but there was times it was tough to watch. I'll be the first one to admit it.
There was, but you know what? The fact that he was there, and the fact that he spoke at the RNC, yeah, it says a lot. I was impressed by that. But again, huge Clint Eastwood fan.
Right. So
I'm a little.
That's our take on the RNC. It was a good job. They got their message out. They had good keynote speakers. Your favorite was Paul Ryan?
I'm going to go with Paul Ryan.
You're going to go with Paul Ryan. I'm going to go with Chris Christie. Rubio did excellent.
You already said Rubio earlier. You can't do that. You can't change.
No, I didn't say he was my favorite. I said he did a really good job.
When you were talking about favorites, you distinctly insinuated.
Fine. I'm going to go, wow. Really? So moving on. We have one last story to cover in the last 10 minutes, and which is going to get me mad. And that's why I only did it with 11 minutes left. That way we don't get caught ranting, because we will. And Clint is going to give us a little insight into the story, and then I'm going to react. And I have my hands on numerous sound effects.
Look, I was on Yahoo, and I came upon a story from Yahoo News where a school, and some of you may know where I'm already going with this. Apparently, KOLN KGIN 1011 News, Nebraska Central News ran a story. Again, I picked it up off of Yahoo. There's a 3.5-year-old boy named Hunter Spanger, I believe is how you pronounce the name, who's deaf. And he learned sign language, and one of the sign for his name, he crosses his index finger and his middle finger and moves them in an up and down manner. And that is a sign
for Hunter.
For his name specifically.
Right.
And it's registered through the Signing Exact English language, the SEE. The school district...
Which is kind of like the governing body for sign language, if you will.
If I will what?
If you will entertain me and read on, please.
Well, I'm not reading. I'm kind of paraphrasing.
Go ahead.
But thanks. Apparently, his school district claims that it violates their rule that forbids anything in the school that looks like a weapon. So the sign for his name, apparently a 3-year-old boy crossing his fingers and pumping them up and down, is so menacing that it looks like a weapon. So this is a Grand Island Public Schools system, and the administrators there have asked the parents of this 3.5-year-old boy to change his sign language name.
This is the political correctness police showing up. This is absolutely out of control. It's not like, listen, it's not like his nickname is.
Well,
Chuck.
hang on a second.
Oh, go ahead.
I have more.
I'm going to snap.
Jack Sheard, who's the Grand Island Public Schools spokesperson, told KOLN, the news network, quote, "We're working with the parents to come to the best solution we can for the child," end quote. Hang on a second. So if I name my kid Springfield, and that's the name of a gun, or if I name my kid Colt, or if I name my kid Smith, and another one Wesson, and you don't like the name because it's the name of a weapon, and you're going to make me change my kid's name? Are you kidding me? You have a 3.5-year-old boy who is deaf, who's handicapped, who has a registered sign for his name specifically, and you want to change it because you think a 3.5-year-old's crossed fingers can look like a weapon?
This is absolutely just ridiculous. They obviously hate handicapped people. I think the school district obviously hates deaf people because they're discriminating against him. If his name was Hunter and he was able and he did not have this disability, they would have no issue with his name. But because he is disabled and he has to sign his name and they don't like that language, they are discriminating against him.
Absolutely.
I think the ACLU should come out on the side of this child. I think the school district needs to be sued.
Yeah.
Not only that, how much money have you jackasses spent on this? If your school district has so much money that they can pay the spokesperson for his time to come out and give this statement, and they can pay for these administrators to actually their time to talk about this and to think up this imagined problem, obviously that school district has too much money, and I think some of their funding needs to be cut.
Absolutely. Listen, it's a child. It's not like his parents said...
It's a 3.5-year-old deaf child.
It's not like his parents said, hey, when he's born, let's give him a really cool name so if he ends up deaf, he can make the cool sign of a shotgun or as a hunter. This is out of control. This is the political correctness police at their finest. They need to go away. This needs to end. Let this child be himself, say his name, not be persecuted because, and who cares why he was named that way? He was named that way. His parents love him. They gave him that name for their reasons. And we, just like we do with any other name in this country, it should be respected. And the fact that he's deaf should have nothing to do with it any more so than the fact that he communicates differently. And I applaud his family for standing up to them. I applaud him for learning that I could never do that. I can barely speak English half the time, as if you listen to the show, you will know. So it's just completely frustrating. This crap needs to end. Jack Sheard or Pap Smear or whatever the hell your name is, you just need to go crawl into a hole and stop bothering real people. Seriously, you're an asshole. Sorry, I'm sorry, but he is. With a schmuck. So that's it for the show. God, I'm going to...
We're ending on a good note.
Jerk. Check us out next Friday for the Friday Night Fiasco on Sackheads Radio. Same time, same channel, blogtalkradio.com/Sackheads Radio Show. We're on Facebook /Sackheads Radio. We're on Twitter.
Hang on. I encourage all of our listeners to send that school district an email.
The name of the school district again?
Really? I just threw the paper.
Yeah, no. If you email them, send it to us and we'll put it up on the forums, which is
Grand Island Public Schools.
In what state?
Nebraska.
In Nebraska, Grand Island Public Schools. Email them.
Do not be threatening.
Nope, just be intelligent.
Be intelligent.
This is not fair. You're treating him unfairly. This is absolutely ridiculous.
You're discriminating against him because of a disability.
You can tell them that that Jack Shearer guy that I called him an asshole. That's Sean from Sackheads Radio Show. He can email me at Sean@sackheadsradio.com if he wants to have a discussion about this.
No, and Clint.
And Clint.
And we invite him to call the show.
So thank you for listening. We're sorry we had a couple sound hiccups. Check us out next Friday night thank you very much. And, oh, God, that guy is just, I really...
Dude, why do I feel like you're about to go Clark Griswold?
Why are you pointing at me?
Well, we have to do the commercial to tell people we're changing times.
We're changing times?
Yeah, next week.
That's right. Hey, it's Clint from Sackheads. We're changing times. Next week, we're going to be on live at 4 o'clock Hawaii time.
What? What?
4 o'clock Hawaii? You want me to use Greenwich Mean Time? What's the problem?
I just want you to say,
It'll be 7 o'clock Pacific.
We went over this.
It'll be 10 o'clock Eastern. You want me to go through like all the time zones?
No.
Okay, good.
Real simple.
See you then, folks. Thank you.
Starting
this is Clint from Sackheads saying have a good one.